them. But anyway, who is the seventh generation in the evil line? Seventh generation in the evil line. It's okay if you don't know. Huh? This is more of you. Oh, and these are the things you should know. Okay, in contrast to that, next number, what number is that? 12? 14. Who is the seventh generation in the good line? Remember, the person is very important. Don't say the name, but those who remember, why is he important again? Why is this seventh generation important, the good line? Seventh generation. Don't mention the name. Just tell me the importance, the significance of the person. Because of our teaching about the assumption, remember? Because this person walked with the Lord and he was no more. So we are telling that, you know, if a man can be brought to heaven, body and soul, then how much more the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is the mother of the Savior herself, who will not be brought to heaven, body and soul, especially the Immaculate Conception. Okay, so if the seventh generation is of the good line, is supposed to be the perfection of goodness, walked with the Lord and disappeared. Now, of course, we know that the ninth generation now becomes the perfection of goodness, right? And we said that the ninth generation, we see that he is the perfection of goodness because he lived for a number of how long?
777.
Very good. Wow. So I'm happy here. Don't embarrass me. So he died at the age of 777. What is his name? What is the name of the ninth generation in the good line? Seventh generation in the good line. Rather, ninth generation. Now you should know the 10th generation. I'll be asking all the generations that are important, because they're very important. Who is the 10th generation? He's the righteous man. He's the man of the great flood. Should know, huh? It's like CCB students know this already. I'm already giving you all the clues. Who is that man who is considered to be the righteous man? He's the 10th generation. He's the man of the great flood. He was the one who built the ark. My gosh, if you still don't know, I'm gonna walk out in this build the ark. Shall I ask the dimension of the ark? That's not really very important. Okay. So the 10th generation had 3 sons, right? Will you be able, the next question is, who is the good line among the 3? Who is the good line? Because very important generation. Who is the good line among the sons of the 10th generation? So that means this is the 11th generation, the good son. What number are we now, teachers? 18. Okay. Number 18, this makes me feel hungry. Who's the evil line among the 3 sons of the 10th generation? The name makes me hungry. Good for sandwich. The evil line of the 10th generation. Okay. Let's jump. Let's go to the 19th generation. Who is the 19th generation? He is the father of the man we just finished telling the story. We are now in his son. Okay. The 20th generation, let me begin with this. The 20th generation is the man who will offer supposedly his son. That's 20th generation. My question is the 19th generation. Who is his father? That's 18, right?
19.
19. Okay, so perfect number. Number 20 is the 20th generation. We just finished the story about him. I think 20 numbers is good enough. Just at least it Okay, so check your own paper. Okay? Check your own paper because this is really for you to be able to say, oh boy, this is what I retain. I should. Number 1. So who's the first man? Adam. Very good. You should know that. Don't tell me you don't know. Anybody did not get that? Who's the first man? Adam, right? Huh? Oh, sorry. I decided about the generation. Sorry. Number 1 is how many books of the Bible? 73. Very good. Did anybody answer 72? Did you answer 72? That's also correct.
Yeah.
Depending on the version that you're using. Okay? But generally, if you're using a Catholic Bible, it's 73. I just would like to accommodate that because if you're reading other literatures, they'll be saying 70. So depending on the version. So if you answer 72, that's also correct. How many in the New Testament? 27. Okay. If your answer is wrong, write on the other side, so you know what you have missed, what you don't put it on the wrong same column, because after the test you will not anymore remember how many did you get and how many did you not. Okay, write it on the rightmost so that you know it is the same line. Okay, but rightmost. Okay, so 27 New Testament. How many Old Testament? Next question. 46. 46. So 46 plus 27 is 73 books of the Bible. Okay? So how many books are there in the difference between the Protestant Bible and Catholic Bible? 7. That's the next question I asked, right? So there are 7 books that are found in the Catholic Bible but are not found in the Catholic Bible. Does anybody remember how do we explain the difference? Why is the other Bible has 7 books compared to the other one? We explained that by going through a history regarding a particular translation of a Bible. Remember? No.
The Hebrew.
Very good. The Septuagint Bible. When the Hebrew Bible was translated into Septuagint. Does anybody remember why is it called Septuagint? Because there were 70 translators. Remember Eleazar, the high priest of Jerusalem during that time, gave in to the request of Ptolemy II of Egypt. Egypt has become the center, during that time. So they wanted to have the copy of the books of the Hebrews. So Eleazar, the high priest of Jerusalem, gave a copy, but he said, but you'll not be able to use this because you don't speak Hebrew. This is written in Hebrew. I'll give you 72 Israelites to translate it into Greek because they were speaking Greek during that time. They will not be able to understand. So when it was translated to Septuagint, that's why it's called Septuagint, because the word Septuaginta means 70. They call it the Septuagint Bible. Okay? And that's where there will be differences in the number of the books. Okay, so next question. How many narrative books, right? That's the next question. Correct. Narrative books, how many?
7.
14. Very good. 14 narrative. So out of 73, my dear friends, so we're not here during the start of our Bible class. The Bible has 73 books. The first thing you must realize is that 73 books are not arranged chronologically. Huh? The wrong way to read the Bible is to read it from page 1 to the last page. Which is the usual way we read any book, right? When we read a book, we begin with page 1 up to the last page. That is not how to read the Bible. If you read the Bible that way, you're doing it wrongly. Wrongly in the sense that you will not get the story. You will be confused. And of course, you will be bored because it will be not a continuous story. The books are not even arranged chronologically. And not all of them tell stories, the biblical story. Okay? So some of them will be about laws. Like for example, you go to Leviticus, it will be about laws, norms, about what the priest should be doing. That's why out of 73, there are only 14 that you should read, and then you can arrange them chronologically so that when you read, it's a continuous story from the time of creation to the time of Jesus Christ to the time of the apostles to our time right now. Okay, so 14. Now we get into the first generation. Okay, is it the first generation now? So what's the name of the first generation? The first man. Adam. Very good. What is the meaning of Adam?
Soil.
Soil, clay, ground. Or it can also be human. Anybody who answered human? You answered human, it's also correct. Okay? Because God said, since you come from Adama, you shall be called Adama. From clay or from the soil you have come, you shall also return. From Adama, you're taken from Adama to Adama you shall return. Okay, so that's the second question is means human or ground or clay. What is the name of the first woman? Eve. Very good. Why is she called Eve? Why was she given the name Eve? What does the word Eve mean? Life. Very good. Okay. Who gave, by the way, who gave her the name? Who gave her the name? Most people will think it's God who gave her the name. No, it's Adam. When Adam looked at her, Adam said, you shall be called Eve, for all Eves will come from you. You shall be called life, because all life will come from you. Okay? That's why it's only the woman who gives birth. Huh? No man can get pregnant. Okay? Because that's why he said, since all life will come from you, you shall be called life. Very good. So that's Eve. Next question, what number are we now? 10. So next question is the 7th generation, right? How many children of the first couple? Huh? Many. That's why he said the question is tricky. Listen to the question. Analyze the question. The question is how many children? Only 3 are named, but they had other sons and daughters. Okay, so the first son is Cain, then Abel, very good, then Seth. Okay, very good. So only 3 are named, but they had a lot of sons and daughters. No, that's wrong. Should be many. Should be many. It should be many. Okay. So what's the next question? Who is the evil line? And the good line. Who is the good line? Seth. Very good. Anybody who remembers why do we know that Seth is the good line? How does the Bible describe him? He was born, not created. Okay? Adam was created in the image and likeness of God. Okay? Adam was created in the image and likeness of God. And then when we get into Seth, the Bible tells us that Seth was born, he was not created, he was born in the image and likeness of Adam, his father. So that's the Bible's way of telling us that he is inheriting the image and likeness of God in the father Adam. Are you by me? That's why Seth is the good line. Okay? The good line. Who is the evil line? Cain. And he's the eldest also. Cain. Okay? Next question. We have the 7th generation. Yeah. Who is the 7th generation in the evil line? That means the line of Cain. You have Adam and then Cain. Who is the 7th generation? Lamech. Very good. Lamech is the 7th generation. Now, he is not only the perfection, quote unquote, of evil because he's the 7th generation. The Bible also describes him, why he is considered evil. How does the Bible describe him? He had 2 wives. Okay, at least he had 2 wives for the first time in the Bible. We have somebody on 2 wives. And aside from that, he's a murderer. Remember, anybody who bruises him, kills the person. Okay? That's why Lamech, the 7th generation in the evil line, is the perfection of, quote-unquote, perfection of evil. How about the 7th generation? Very important in the good line. Enoch. Very good. My dear friends, please, me personally, I always remember Enoch, the 7th generation in the good line. He's the 7th generation, and the Bible tells us that when he was 365 years old, he walked with the Lord and disappeared. That means he was brought to heaven, body and soul. And I was telling you, very important for us, of course, to support our teaching about the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, right? Our belief in the assumption is that the Blessed Virgin Mary was taken up to heaven, body and soul. Now, before you even talk about the Blessed Virgin Mary brought to heaven, body and soul, since we cannot find that in the Bible, go back first to Enoch. Okay? So, show them that in the Bible, somebody was brought to heaven, body and soul, and that is Enoch. And there's another one in the book of Kings, right? Elijah the prophet. Okay, so, he at the 365, he walked with the Lord and disappeared. So who now becomes the perfection of goodness? He is the 9th generation. He lived for a period of 777. What's the name? Lamech also. Very good. Lamech. Lamech is the 9th generation and he lived for 777. That's why the 10th generation, because he is the son of the perfection of goodness, what do you expect of him? He will be a righteous man. When we say righteous man, obedient to the will of God, obedient to the Lord. Remember, that's the concept of being righteous. And what's the name of the 10th generation? Noah. Again, if you don't get that, I say we give you already all the hint, flood, ark. Okay, so that's Noah. Okay, now Noah had 3 sons also, right? What's the next question? The good son. Who is the good line? Shem. Very good. Shem. And don't forget the name Shem, because Shem, the name Shem also means name. Okay? That's why the bad son, the evil son, will be actually saying, since you have the Shem, we will build our own Shem. Remember? They are the ones who build the what? Tower of Babel. Okay? They are building their own name. We don't need God to have a name. We can make our own name. Okay? That's the evil son. Who is the evil son? Ham. Very good. That's why I was telling you, makes me hungry. Good for sandwich. Ham. Okay, next question. 19th generation. This is kind of difficult, but I'm hoping you would remember. Who's the 19th generation? The father of the 20th generation. Terah. Very good. Terah. Okay, and of course the 20th generation is Abraham. That's where we are now. Actually, we are already in the 21st generation, who is Isaac. So we had 20 questions, right? So look at your score. How many did you pass or did you fail? But it's a good test, right? I mean, at least you're able to gauge yourself. Boy, this is what I remember. Very good. Any questions so far? That's also a good review for those who were not able to join us from the start. At least they're... Okay, so let's go to chapter 25. Okay, so from time to time we'll have that just to, it's like a summary for us. Okay, and chapter 24, one of the longest chapters, of course, we are told about, of course, Isaac, of course, having a wife. The name of the wife is Rebecca. Remember how did he have the wife? Because Isaac, of course, we know that the mother of Isaac already died. What's the name of the mother?
Sarah.
Sarah. How old was she when he died? 127, right? 127. Therefore, remember we were saying that if Sarah died at the age of 127, so how old was Abraham when Sarah died? Because the gap is 10 years. Very good. Wow, okay. You see, it's better to tell stories when you have those information. Okay, so Abraham must have been 137 when Sarah died, because Sarah died at the age of 127. Now, of course, Abraham was getting old. And of course, remember that they are not in their own land. They are in the promised land. And in the promised land, they don't have yet relatives, as in relatives. Therefore, Abraham was a concern. I'm already getting old. My wife is dead. I want to make sure that my son, before I depart this world, will be secured. And one of the most important concerns is to have the rightful wife. That's why he asked his servants, remember how did he ask the servant? Put your hands under my thigh and promise me that you will go to the place of Nahor, my relative, to find a wife for my son, Isaac. And then, of course, the servant went, bringing 10 camels and gifts and everything like that. And what was the sign that remember, Abraham told the servant also, don't worry about it, because the servant was worried about, what if the woman will not come with me? What did Abraham say? It is very important in the person of Abraham. God brought us here, He will provide. Don't worry so much. Let God's problem be His problem, not our problem. Just go and God will help you. And so he went, and remember the sign that he asked, if I see a woman, and if I ask for water, and she offers me water, and without me asking even offers water for my animals, surely that is the rightful woman. So enough. We have Rebecca. Who's the father of Rebecca? Bethuel. Okay. Who is the father of Bethuel? Nahor. Very good. Who is Nahor connected to relationship to Abraham? Brother. Very good. Okay, brother. So, now we have Rebecca as the wife, and then they came back, so that's where we are right now. Okay, let's go to chapter 20. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. Can you imagine that? So Abraham was like 138, and he's still married. He had Hagar. He had son with Hagar, the name is Ishmael, and of course, imagine, they did not have a son until he was 100 years old. Sarah had a child, had a son, when she was 90 years old, and then all of a sudden they have Isaac. When Sarah dies, here he gets another wife by the name of Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Joksham, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Sorry, I hope I pronounced them correctly. They're tongue twisters, as you know. Joksham became the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherim, the Letushim, and the Leumim. The descendants of Midian were Ephar, Hanok, Abida, and Elda. All of these were descendants of Keturah. Now, of course, you know that in the Bible, it will always give you genealogies, but it will only, if they are not very important, the Bible only give you the names, but will not really tell you about stories. At least you're able to situate the story. The writer of the story is making sure that it becomes historical, because you're able to situate the place. It's not something that is only made up story. You know what I mean? So by doing that. But of course, the Bible will always zero in on the important genealogy. And when we're talking about genealogy in the Bible, by the way, when you say genealogy, what does that mean? It's like, for simple understanding, it's like our family tree, huh? There's the father of, the father of, the father of. We call that as the genealogy. Now, of course, in the Bible, there's only one genealogy that's very important. And what's that? Jesus Christ. Remember, what we are reading is actually the line of Jesus. This is what we are following. From Adam, all the way, we'll be able to reach the line following the line of Jesus. But from time to time, of course, the Bible will give us lists of names in order for us to situate the story, but will not really give us more information. That's why, like here, okay? Now, Abraham gave everything that he owned to his son Isaac. To the sons of his concubines, however, he gave gifts while he was still living, as he sent them away eastward to the land of Kedem, away from his son Isaac. Now, notice that Abraham gave first of all gifts to his son with concubines. But the Bible tells us that Abraham gave everything that he owned to his son Isaac. So what does that mean? He gives first of all gifts to all his sons, and then everything that is left, he gave to Isaac. Now, of course, we know we are talking of the Hebrew culture, huh? Although Ishmael, of course, is the firstborn of Abraham, but remember that he is the son with a servant. He's not really like the only son of Abraham. Okay? Now, very important, remember that Isaac is also, what's the right term to use there? It's a typology of Jesus Christ. Remember Abraham offering Isaac, his only son? Isaac, remember, carrying the cross to Mount Moriah, where Jesus in the New Testament will also be offered by the Father. And remember that in the scriptures, in the New Testament, Jesus would say, everything has been given to the Son, that everything will be given to me will not be lost, that I'll be able to bring them to the Father. That's why the Bible here, because Isaac is also a prefiguration of the New Testament, will be Jesus Christ. That's why here, everything was given also to Isaac. Are you following me?
Yes.
To the sons of his concubines, however, he gave gifts while he was still living, as he sent them away eastward to the land of Kedem, away from his son Isaac. The whole span of Abraham's life was 175 years. So if he married Keturah after the death of Sarah, he must be around 137, 138 years old when he married Keturah. And he died at the age 175. So they were married for about 38 years. Okay? Then he breathed his last, dying at a ripe old age, grown old after a full life, and he was gathered to his people. Beautiful description of Abraham. Huh? We don't know much about Abraham in his younger years. Huh? How old was Abraham when we first met him in the story? 75. Where do we find him? Actually, you can see him earlier than that because he said, Terah left Haran, Ur, but there's nothing. That's all that the Bible says. And then our story about Abraham really begins when he was 75 years old. So we don't really know how he grew up, everything like that. But all we know about the life of Abraham is beginning at the age of 75. He was already in Haran. His father Terah died, and God called him to leave the place and go to the land he will show him. Okay? He was 75 years old. But even though we don't know the early years of the life of Abraham, we can say with everything that we have seen, Abraham lived a full life. Okay? In different perspectives, you look at it. Number one, let's look at the practicality of it. How did Abraham die? A very rich man. He's one of the richest during that time. He really had a full life. And aside from that, remember that throughout the life of Abraham, it's all the story of him trusting God and God always rewarding him. Everybody was afraid of Abraham, in fact. Even the kings would be afraid of him because God would always protect him. That's why even though we don't know the younger years of Abraham, we know that beginning at the age of 75, Abraham really lived a good life. How I wish we also die like that. No? Having a ripe age, the Bible would describe it, dying at a ripe old age, grown old after a full life, and he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. After, of course, we know that Ishmael will be living, right, with a mother. They will be disappearing. And all of a sudden, when Abraham dies, we see Ishmael back. Which is a common practice even with us, right? When do we gather really as a family? When somebody is to be buried, that's when we come home. Okay? Now here, we don't really know what happened to Ishmael, but at least when his father died, he was there to bury him. But what is strange is, okay, somebody's missing. If Ishmael is there, whom do you expect to be there also? Huh? Other kids, but Hagar. Okay, so we don't know. Maybe Hagar is already dead by this time. Since Sarah is already dead, Hagar must be like maybe older than Sarah. I don't know. She must not be older than Sarah, right? Because she was given, how old was Sarah already when she gave Hagar to Abraham? She must still be young. But anyway, that's just something for us to think about. But Ishmael was there in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, which faces Mamre. The field that Abraham brought from the Hittites, there he was buried next to his wife Sarah. So Abraham was the second person to be buried in Machpelah, which is now, of course, we call Hebron. When we go to the promised land, we go to the Holy Land, we will still see, believed to be, the tomb of Abraham. Okay, so that's what we believe to be Hebron in present times. After the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, who lived near Beer Lahairoi, descendants of Ishmael. These are the descendants of Abraham from Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's slave, bore to Abraham. These are the names of Ishmael's sons, listed in the order of their birth. Ishmael's firstborn, Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbil. This is not Adbil, no? Adbil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadad, Tima, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, their names by their villages and encampments, 12 chieftains, as many tribal groups. That's why there are a lot really of intrigue in the life of Ishmael. Huh? If you're following the story, it's really very interesting to trace the life of Ishmael. Why? Because of course he is, as we discussed already last time, Ishmael is also circumcised. He's also a believer. And then we are told that he begins the Arab countries, and we are told that he had also 12 chieftains, 12 sons. Okay? So which means parallelism with the Israelites. Huh? How many tribes of Israel also?
12.
12. So what's in number 12? Right? In fact, our belief is that, as we said in the Bible, it says Machpelah, in the cave of Machpelah facing Mamre, which is Hebron, of course, which we will find in the Holy Land when we get there, hopefully next year, see the tomb of Abraham. But remember that the belief of the Muslims is that Abraham went to Mecca with Ishmael. Huh? Their belief is that Abraham, that is their belief, okay, that Abraham and Ishmael were buried in the Qadda. You know, Qadda is the Mecca. You know, when they go in pilgrimage, what time of the year is that? Everybody goes there. Ramadan, and then they go around the Qadda.
Yeah.
Their belief is that Abraham and Ishmael were buried there, because that's where they trace. Now, not really all Muslims trace their physical line with Ishmael, but they trace their belief from Ishmael. Are you following it? Their faith from Ishmael. Okay? That's where they always trace their line when it comes to faith. And that is very important for them. Remember that they consider Ishmael to be a prophet. Huh? Okay? That's why the question of, I really have to research, I'm not very knowledgeable about that area, but now I'm becoming more and more intrigued in the life of Ishmael, because I can see some parallelism in the two. So it's a really intriguing topic for me. Wow, I said, wow, if Israel with Jacob now will have 12 sons, of course we know later there will be some complications there, but they will begin with 12 sons, 12 tribes. But why is it that Ishmael, we are also told he will have 12 chieftains? So the parallelism of the two. Okay? And God promised Ishmael, and actually Hagar promised Ishmael through Hagar that he will also be becoming a great nation. Great nations will also be coming from him, because he is also son of Abraham. And Abraham is promised to be the father of many nations. So there's something that we can learn from there. Okay? The span of Ishmael's life was 137 years. After he had breathed his last and died, he was gathered to his people. The Ishmaelites ranged from Havilah. You remember Havilah? Creation story. One of the rivers. By Shur, which is on the border of Egypt, all the way to Ashur, and a pitched camp alongside their various kindred. Okay? So as I said, the Bible will always give us genealogies just to situate the story, but we'll now focus really on the line we are following, which is the line of Jesus. That's why after giving all of those context, now we focus on Esau and Jacob. This is really our focus of the story. These are the descendants of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham got Isaac, begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, very young. In that context, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padam Aram, and the sister of Laban the Aramean, Isaac entreated the Lord on behalf of his wife since she was sterile. Again, the same story. Okay? The story about Isaac and Abraham, it's almost like a parallelism. That's why sometimes I would think that's why we don't have really much stories about Isaac. You will notice that with Isaac, we only have one chapter, only this chapter. In fact, he was just introduced in the previous chapter, then we just have one chapter for him, and then we jump immediately to the next generation, okay, which is Esau and Jacob, especially with Jacob. But if you look at how Isaac in his life, it's like a parallelism with Abraham. Perhaps that's why it's shortened. Okay, that is just okay. That's it. Because of course Sarah was also barren. Okay, but here we are told that Rebekah was also sterile. But what's good about it is that here we are told that the husband or Isaac prayed on behalf of Rebekah. Very good, right? How I wish all husbands are like that. Praying for the wife, because the wife was sterile. The Lord heard his entreaty, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. Again, you know, in the Bible, every time that there's something great that will happen, notice the Bible will always have a way of telling us that it happened not just because of their capacity, okay? It's because of God. Therefore, Esau and Jacob will not be born just because Isaac can say, I can do it. Are you following me? Therefore, the sons will not be purely just human effort, if you call it human effort, okay? Human means. It will be by the grace of God that they will be born, that Rebekah will be conceiving. Because the Bible tells us that Rebekah was sterile, that Isaac had to pray to intercede for Rebekah, and because of his prayers, God will grant the request. Therefore, the son to be born is through the grace and power of God. Okay. This is very important. Remember, with Abraham, it's always like that. With Abraham, it's always, I'm not taking this gift because you might say, you made me rich. Only God makes me rich. That's why here, Jacob and Esau will be born, not purely because of Rebekah and Isaac, but because of the power of God. Okay? Because she was sterile. The Lord heard her prayer. But the children jostled each other in the womb so much that she exclaimed, if it is like this, why go on living? Okay? Again, something that we must learn in our life. Imagine, Rebekah is sterile. And then Isaac prays to God. She's already sterile, and then after praying, she even had twins. She even had twins. Maybe Isaac is just, when Isaac prayed, I'm sure he will be saying, Lord, at least give me one son, please. What does that mean? When we ask for something and we remain faithful to God, God gives us beyond what we can expect. That's a thing in the scriptures. Does that not remind you of Samuel also? Remember who's the mother of Samuel again? Prophet Samuel, very important. Hannah, very good. Remember the story of Hannah? She was also sterile, right? She was also not conceiving. And then Hannah, remember, prayed in the temple one night, and Eli, the high priest, again thought she was a bad woman. Remember, you're drunk again, Eli was saying. And what did Hannah say? Hannah said, I'm not drunk, I'm not a bad woman, Eli. I'm actually here pouring out to God and crying because I don't have a child. And you know, if God will give me even just one child, I promise you, if He gives me one child, I will offer that child to God completely. And then Eli, remember what did Eli say? I'll go home, lady. God has heard your prayer. When they went home, Hannah got pregnant. And then remember, every time they would go up in pilgrimage to the temple, but Hannah will not go until Samuel will be weaned from her. Of course, she cannot go to the temple and then bring Samuel with her still, because she promised that she will offer the child to God. So she had to wait for the son to be weaned from her. When he was already weaned from her, that's the time he went again with his husband to the temple. And when they get to the temple, remember, he went to Eli and said, Eli, do you still remember me? Eli said, who are you? I was the woman you said that I'm a bad woman, I was drunk and everything, but you told me God had heard my prayer. Here is my son. This is the answer to my prayer. And then, if you are Hannah, will you leave your son, your only son? For how many years of begging the Lord because you were not conceiving? Maybe she conceived at the last years of her life already capable of getting pregnant. But even that, when she gave Samuel to Eli, offered to the Lord, what happened when she got home? Every year, pregnant. She got pregnant. The Bible tells us she had, I believe, 3 sons and 2 daughters after Samuel. Okay? Just like here, Isaac prayed, please give me 1 son. And when God answers our prayers, He gives more than what we ask. As long as we are worthy of it. As long as we make ourselves worthy of it. So he asked for 1, but he was given a twin. If it is like this, why go on living? She went to consult the Lord, and the Lord answered her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples are separating while still within you. But one will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger. Oh, that's very important. If you are Rebecca and you hear those lines, that's like, what? For you to say that the older will serve the younger, that's just against the culture. Okay? That's just against the culture. We will see from now on, of course, that the eldest always have what we call as the birthright. And this will be the beginning of fight over the birthright. When the time of her delivery came, there were twins in her womb. The first to emerge was reddish, and his whole body was like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau, because the name Esau means hairy. Okay? So again, when you give the name, it is out of circumstance or feature of the person. And because the first one was hairy, he was called Esau, because Esau means hairy. Next, his brother came out, gripping Esau's heel. So he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. He was named Jacob because he was gripping, holding the heel. He's stealing the, okay, means supplanter. Okay, that's the name Jacob. That's what the name Jacob means. Okay? Therefore, it tells us that it was, as it was told by the Lord, that even from the time they were born, they were already competing for the birthright. Okay? They were already competing for the birthright. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, whereas Jacob was a simple man who stayed among the tents. That's why, of course, Isaac preferred Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebecca preferred Jacob. In short, of course, because the terminologies here are not very like our terminology now, Esau is more manly. He's a hunter, goes out. That's why the father likes him. It's manly. While Jacob always stays at home, always helps the mother with house chores and everything like that. He's gentle. That's why, of course, Rebecca also loved Jacob, because Jacob is always at home helping. But of course, when you follow Hebrew culture, it will be Esau, the firstborn, who will have the birthright. Remember that for the Hebrew, going back to the inheritance, if you are the firstborn, by law, bigger portion of the inheritance goes to you. If there are many of you, 50% automatic goes to you. Okay? Because of course, you are, if you are the eldest, you have the right When your father dies, automatically you become the head of the family. Okay? It's the other way around. With us, it's the other way around, right? Normally, it's the youngest that's the baby of everyone, right? But for them, the eldest is always has the right. That's why going back to the story about the prodigal son, remember? Okay, you must remember all of those cultural information in order to appreciate the story really. Remember the prodigal son, two sons, eldest and youngest. Who asked for the inheritance? The youngest. Very important for you to know. Because between the two, who has the right? The eldest. But who asked? The youngest. The one who doesn't have the right to the inheritance, because it's the eldest, was the one who asked for the inheritance. That means it's really the worst thing he could have done to his father. Between the two, it could have been better if it is the eldest who asked for his inheritance. Anyway, he has the right in a way to it. But it was the youngest who asked. Okay. But once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Let me go down some of the red stuff. I am famished." That is why he is called Edom. So Esau has another name, which is Edom. Very important, remember, Edomites. Okay, so remember that, because when we get into the next stories, we'll be going back to them, the Edomites. Okay, so he's also called Edom because he was not only hairy, he was also reddish when he was born. And aside from that, he also loved red soup. Okay. That is why he's called Edom. But Jacob replied, "First sell me your right as firstborn." "Look," said Esau, "I am on the point of dying. What good is the right as firstborn to me?" What does it tell us? What does it tell us? Esau, by birth, has the birthright. It belongs to him. Jacob, by birth, doesn't have the birthright. He's the youngest. Are you following me? But in reality, Esau doesn't care about birthright. Jacob, who doesn't have the birthright because he's the youngest, is the one really after, "Give me the birthright." But Esau, "What will I do with the birthright? I have the birthright. Let me get the soup. I'm hungry." You know what I mean? So, Jacob really wanted to have the birthright. And Esau doesn't care about it. No wonder, to cut the story short, almost at the end, who will now have the birthright? Jacob. Okay? And this, when we get into Jacob, the story becomes interesting again. Because Jacob is now the beginning of the Israelites. Okay? Jacob's name will be changed to Israel, and now we have the Israelite. He will now have the birthright. Okay, what does it tell us, my dear friends? When we ask something from the Lord, we have to ask for it, and we have to make ourselves worthy of it. Jacob doesn't have the birthright, but he has been asking for it and been working for it. No wonder it will be given to him. You know, when I was in the seminary, there's always they always say that, "Oh, if God really wants you to become a priest, you really become a priest." Okay? If God doesn't want you to become a priest, not to become a priest, you will not also become a priest. I don't completely buy that idea. Because I don't consider us to be robots of God. No, I decided to become, you have no choice to become a priest. I always tell my students in the seminary, you know guys, if you really want to become a priest, if you really want to become a priest, number one, ask God for it. God, I really want to become a priest. Who is God who will not give you with the condition, number two, second condition, as long as you make yourself worthy. I want to become a priest. And I do everything in order to make myself worthy of becoming a priest. Who is God who will not give you that gift of priesthood? Even though God wants you to become a priest, but you are not playing your part in becoming a priest, you think God will make you a priest? So ask for it and make yourself worthy. Even with parents, right? If your son is asking for, what's a good example? Asking for a shoes, for example, in the beginning you don't want to give because, no, you don't need shoes yet. But you see your son really like, Dad, please give the shoes. I really like the shoes. And then you see your son really good every day, doing mowing, helping at home. One day you just say, okay, son, I'll buy you the shoes. I'll buy you the shoes. Why? Because you see him really asking for it. And secondly, he's making himself worthy of it. When you find him deserving of it, then you'll give it to him. I believe it's the same thing with God. And we see that in the life of Jacob and Esau. Esau has the birthright. By right, by birth, it belongs to him. But he doesn't even care. But here comes Jacob, who doesn't have the birthright because he's the youngest, but asks for it always. Give me your birthright. And we'll do everything. Okay, you want soup? I'll cook soup for you. He just, you want this red soup? It's all yours. Just give me the birthright. If we work hard for it and we ask for it, we will have it. Compared to the one who has it, but not deserving and not working for it, he will lose it. Okay? And when God gives it to you, He gives more than what you ask. Okay? Just like Isaac praying that I may have a son, is given the tree. Hannah and all the rest. Imagine, actually in all the stories of the Bible, can you give me another example of asking for something and what's given is greater than what's expected? Zechariah and Elizabeth. Zechariah and Elizabeth, remember we are told that they did not have any child. And Zechariah serving in the temple, in the area, praying, leading the prayer. He was offering incense and everything like that. And they were not having a son. What is it again when you do not have any son? Everybody thinks you're cursed by God. You're a sinner. Can you imagine? I always tell my friends, if I'm Zechariah, because Zechariah is the priest, right? Leading something like that. And everybody thinks I am a great sinner. I'm cursed by God. You think I will have the courage to continuously stand here in front and lead in prayer? I could have resigned long time ago. But Zechariah did not resign. He continued to be faithful to God and crying out to God, please give us a son. Who was given to them? John the Baptist. And the Bible tells us, no man born of a woman is greater than John the Baptist. I'm sure Zechariah must be being, Lord, just give me one son, even just simple one son. Okay. But towards the almost the ripe old age, they were given no less than John the Baptist. Okay. Zechariah must be saying, Lord, I'm only asking for a simple son. You gave me John the Baptist. Well, jackpot price. Okay. I'm giving the Baptist. Yes.
Why is he mute?
Why is he?
Mute, like cannot talk until the birth of the
Oh, because remember, he did not believe at first that his son. So until he was able. When you say do not believe, remember that. What's the meaning of John? The word John, the name John. God's gift. Until John was born, and then he was to be baptized. And remember, he was asked, what's the name of the son? What's the name? Remember, they were expecting him to be Zechariah, just like his father. Remember, he said, why John? When Elizabeth was asked, Elizabeth said, John, they said, why John? There's nobody John in the family. It's Zechariah, your father. And then they asked Zechariah, what's the name of the son? He wrote John, right? And when he wrote John, all of a sudden he can already speak. Why? What's the greatest temptation? It's if you're Zechariah. Huh? I don't know. Imagine all throughout your life, everybody's thinking of you to be cursed by God, to be evil, to be a great sinner. And then all of a sudden your wife is pregnant. What will be the temptation? See, I can do it, guys. See, I can do it, guys. I told you. But no. By saying John, now we call him John. But in reality, When he was asked, what's the name of the child? God's gift. It's like saying, I did not do it. It's God. Are you following? So he acknowledges that it is not his own doing, but it is by the power of God that he has done. That's why because of that, he believed that indeed it is God's gift. That's why now he can speak again. Okay? This is a thing that is all throughout the whole biblical history. That everything that we are able to do, we are able to do not because of our capacity, but because of God. Okay? Let us start.